Hello again, I am Blunty. Are you sick of hearing about that new Spider-Man game yet? Seems like it's been everywhere, doesn't it? Before launch, Sony was shoveling money into the hype train's furnaces faster than idiot children eat Tide Pods. Is it too late to make a Tide Pod joke? I don't know, I'm pretty tired. And I never got around to making a reference to it in a video when it was, the thing that was happening. Then, a couple of days before launch, a bunch of the bigger blogs and YouTubers and such were all gushing breathlessly in their reviews about this game. A game where many were giving it perfect scores in their review. 10 out of 10, or close to perfect with 9.98 out of 10 or whatever. Now, I'm not someone who gives a single soft crap about these type of out of 10 scores. This type of rating system is for two kinds of people, both of whom are worthless. The first kind is the idiots too lazy to actually look at the review and get some detail, nuance, and context about a game they're unsure enough about to need a review for. The second kind of people who love these scores are even worse. Confirmation bias jerks who just like pointing at these numbers in arguments about which game has the bigger number, as if that was any indication of how much fun a game is. The point is, scores are for morons, and so ignoring all this and actually watching a few pre-release reviews of this game, a game I had long since pre-ordered from the digital storefront anyway, because I was already anticipating this being a pretty good game considering who the developer was. But a perfect game is not what we got. The reviews gushed about it. They had the bold irresponsibility to give it 10 out of 10 scores, therefore proclaiming it to be perfect and unexceedable, a crystalline model of gaming flawlessness. That's what 10 out of 10 means. It couldn't possibly be better. This is why the rating system is dumb also. Well, it's not perfect, surprise, surprise, and it damn sure isn't flawless. I was pretty eager for the game, I'll have to admit. I started playing it at the midnight unlock time on launch day, and I streamed my gameplay to Twitch. In fact, over the last 3 days, I streamed every last minute of my gameplay. The first day, I streamed 20 hours straight. 20 hours straight of streaming this game because I just did not want to stop playing it. The very next day, I added another 12 hours to that. 12-hour stream on top of the 20-hour stream. And yesterday, I piled on another 8 hours worth of streaming this game. So that's about 40 hours all up that I've live streamed gameplay from this game over just 3 days. And it culminated in my 100% completion of the game. I've done everything the game said I could do. So, what about those perfect scores then, Blunty? Surely, if I was compelled to play this strongly, it must be perfect, right? Surely a game so good that over 3 days you live streamed 40 hours worth of gameplay, it just has to be just flawless, right? Well, it's not a flawless game, not by any stretch of hope or faith or chasing an extra few clicks from incredulous web surfers who think 10 out of 10 is idiot bait. What it is, though, is an astoundingly well-crafted game, so full of glorious attention to detail, both fresh takes and callbacks and deep-cut references that go all the way back to the 1960s and through Spider-Man's entire history in comics, TV, and movies. It's half love letter to one of comics' most engaging and relatable heroes, and half brand new start to a Spider universe cut free from the comics, both 616 and Ultimate, and from both the Sony movies and the MCU movieverse. The gameplay, at least when you're Spider-Man, is brilliance itself. Again, not perfect, but easily one of the best executed 3D traversal systems ever implemented in any game. Previously, I had praised Just Cause 3 for this, whose mix of grapple and wingsuit and parachute made moving around and through a vast and vertically dynamic world not just easy and intuitive, but more fun than one can expect to have sober and fully clothed. And Spider-Man is the first game that has exceeded that for me. Swinging, climbing, fighting all feel not just instinctive and natural, but bewilderingly responsive, and it is just flat out gratifying in such a joyful way it feels almost sinful. In a good way, the really fun sins. But perfect? No. The wall crawling is a bit flaky sometimes. A few times when trying to stealth grab a guy over the ledge of a building, I'd accidentally just climb onto the roof, ruining the stealth takedown fun and alerting every last bad guy to my presence. The activation prompts for some things just don't activate sometimes until you walk back and forth a few times until you get the prompt saying, "Alright, press this button to do the thing." Sometimes, despite being Spider-Man, I couldn't climb over very small ledges halfway up buildings that looked completely traversable, but you could get over them if you were sprinting. "Just climb!" I would scream at the screen in frustration. But In 40 hours of gameplay, the ruined stealth happened maybe 5 or 6 times, and maybe 3 or 4 times for the odd climbing glitches, so not so bad overall, really. The fighting is equally exquisite. Never before have I felt so in control of a dynamic and contextual fighting system like this. Many games have adopted, evolved and fine-tuned what the Batman Arkham series started with this style of combat. None have come even close to what this game does with it. I am in complete and utter control the whole entire time. Every mistake is mine, every glorious takedown is mine, and at no time was I unwantedly locked into an animation that put me in danger. At no time was I unable to do precisely what I wanted to be doing. The style and variety and tactics and moves and combos that I could bring to any fight were all in my precise ability to control, and it feels amazing. Even the control system for all this is amazingly intuitive. However, it is not perfect. The enemy AI is catastrophically stupid at some times, just standing there or pathfinding into a corner or vehicle or something. And most times it's a wonderful thing though. Bare-fisted or disarmed combatants will actually go pick up weapons you've stripped off other guys, which is nice and clever. They'll work to flank you. In later stages of the game, there's enemies specifically equipped to punish you for doing Spider-Man-y things like using your verticality advantage, and so you are forced to adapt. There's basically 4 main types of enemy groups, each with their own weapons and styles, and within each group you've got the standard bare-fisted brawlers, the close combat handheld weapon guys, the heavies, the gun guys, the rocket launcher guys, a few different kinds of projectiles, and a few other specialist weapons and shields and such. There's not tons of variety between these different groups. They all have different looking weapons, but they all play very much the same by and large. But there is enough variety to make each fight interesting and fun. But no, it's not perfect. There's a whole bunch of Spidey suits to unlock, either through story or leveling or trading in tokens from side missions and collectathons. Each suit has a special ability, and in a stroke of glorious genius, any of these special abilities can be attached to any other suit once it's unlocked. You can mix and match, in other words. If you want a certain ability, you're not forced to wear the accompanying suit like you are in most other games, where a certain piece of armor has a certain ability you want to use, but maybe you don't like the look of the armor. Well, here, you can just activate the bonus ability you want on your favorite suit, which is why I spent almost all of my time in the wonderfully modeled Scarlet Spider suit. The Clone Saga may have been one of comics' biggest cluster frills, but I always did like the Ben Reilly suit. Alongside suit powers, there's a bunch of passive abilities you can apply, 3 at any time, and a whole suite of web shooter-based gadgets, and all are done very nicely. No complaints there. Now, parts of the game have you playing some of Spider-Man's pet humans. Without superpowers, without the glorious combat, and without the superb movement abilities, these are all, basically, enforced stealth missions. Sneaking around, hiding and stuff, often combined with the wander around aimlessly examining objects in a room until you do that in the right order for the next chunk of expositional dialogue to trigger. I hate this crap, and I especially hate enforced stealth missions. If you're spotted, you instantly fail. It's not fun for me to do that. Optional stealth, as Spider-Man, is super fun. Being all sneaky and clever and, webbing guys up to the ceiling and whatnot, and making careful recon and planning about who to take out and when, and who's going to be spotted and who's not going to be spotted. That's all super fun. I love doing that. But enforced stealth with the other characters sucks. It feels slow and plodding and wooden and frustrating, and there is only one, solution to it. There is just one path you have to follow, and it's just dull, especially compared to how well this game does the be the goddamn amazing Spider-Man thing. This isn't helped, of course, by how stupid the AI is. There's all kinds of things you can do that will ruin stealth, and even more things you should just not be able to get away with that don't ruin stealth. The AI cone of vision is idiotically narrow. They are deaf as posts to the distraction-causing devices you're giving to distract them. You basically have to throw them just at their feet for them to hear them, but they will hear you brush past a cardboard box from half a room away. It almost feels like Insomniac Games farmed out this section of gameplay to a much lesser developer because they couldn't be bothered doing it. They were having fun doing the Spider-Man stuff, so they let someone else do this. It doesn't feel right, and it doesn't play even close to as well as the rest of the game plays. But that said, there's 2 of these 4 or 5 sections that were genuinely fun for about half of what they did. The saving grace is that these sections are not numerous, and they're not long, but they do miserably grind the pace of the whole experience like a bucket of sand in an engine. It's just not good game design as far as I'm concerned. The story isn't perfect either. I won't say much for the sake of spoiler stuff, of course, but sometimes I just want to sit Mary Jane down and give her a good fucking talking to about not being such a catastrophic idiot all of her life. Not to mention some of her passive-aggressive bullshit she tries to get away with. Now, Mary Jane in this game is the worst Mary Jane from any adaptation, in my humble opinion. She's basically a cut-price Lois Lane doing a reporter thing, but without any of the street smarts or self-reliance of Lois. But Mary Jane is pretty charming in sections where she's not being that reporter girl, where she's just interacting with Peter and the other people. She is likable. It's just what she does to progress the story, which infuriates me. Aunt May, Miles Morales, and several other supporting core characters, both friendly and nasty, are all very engaging though, well thought out, true to themselves, complex, and their characterization and dialogue all feel pretty natural for the most part. As natural as a wackadoo comic book thing can be. Facial animations, not always so natural. The J. Jonah Jameson radio show stuff, which plays sporadically during the gameplay, was also hilarious. Wonderful dialogue writing and performance stuff there. Then there's all the side missions and collectathon stuff that come along with open world games like this. They unlock at a good pace, their rewards are useful and desirable, and for the most part doing the missions involved is genuinely fun, and not just grindy, uninteresting, repetitive busy work to flesh out the gameplay time like so many other games do them. There's exploration-based stuff, there's time hunt stuff, there's chase sequence stuff, and bomb disarming stuff, and combat stuff, and overt and stealth, and there's even a variety of wave-based base clearing battles. And all of it is fun, and all of it is compelling. And all of it I wanted to do, not just to get the tokens for the unlocks, but because they were genuinely fun bits of game. Well, except for a few. There's a science research gimmick, one that often has a completely stupid concept around it. Like, really stupid. Like, headache-inducingly stupid quote-unquote science. With so much real-world science to pull from, there's really no excuse for how idiotic the framing and setup of some of these concepts is. Thankfully, the activities required to complete these quests of science as imagined by a drunken 6-year-old is usually pretty fun, so there is that to save it. But again, not a perfect game. There's a few more things I'd like to note too about the main quest, but that'd get spoilery, and suffice to say there's some stuff that's a bit like the hallucinogenic stuff in Far Cry 5, and it's very dull. It's derivative, and it kind of just exists to force feed some exposition as quickly as possible, without just having your characters sit in a room talking to each other. It's not fun, it breaks the flow, and it is stupid. And I suppose finally, there's the boss fights to talk about. Again, no specific detail because spoilers. Although I've got to be frank with you, being spoiled on big parts of this game isn't really going to make the game any less fun, because the fun is not in, which bosses you fight or which suits there are in the game. The fun of the game is playing the game, the gameplay, and you really can't spoil the gameplay. Anyway, the boss fights are mostly quite fun. Again, a bit derivative and, fairly common as far as big boss fights go in this type of game, and not that well executed, really, but most of them are pretty fun and pretty satisfying to beat nonetheless. And more than once, you're facing two bosses simultaneously, which does feel a bit fresher than the usual one-on-one, dodge the incoming big attack and wear the boss down with little attacks, and then quick time event for big punches. It's all very formulaic. But it is at least well executed and pretty fun, especially with the dialogue in a few of them being wonderfully Spiderman-y. The big grey guy and the big green guy teaming up for one, for those who've played it, you know what I'm talking about. Wonderfully funny quips and a really funny movie reference. But yeah, overall, I don't think this game deserves these perfect scores, or 9.8 out of 10 even, or whatnot. But I get why some people have slapped those scores on there, in their gasping excitement, perhaps even as view bait, or perhaps all of those little annoying things just aren't enough to eclipse or even cast a noticeable shadow on, or cast a puddle of reflection, if you will, across everything else that is so goddamn superb about what this game gets so satisfyingly right. I spent 39 hours 100%ing this game live on stream, and I still want more. Insomniac, if you are listening, on the off chance someone is watching this in your offices, bring on the DLC. Never let the DLC stop. Ever game the ever-living shit out of this game with continuous DLC missions. GTA Online this thing with expansion after expansion after expansion. Don't worry about making a sequel. Don't worry about that for years. You don't need to invest in making a sequel yet. What you've built right here is a foundation more than strong enough to keep me paying you for more stuff built right on top of it. And also, if you are listening, more variety in the post-game petty crime stuff, please. That definitely needs more variety there. Again, not a perfect game, but really good. Oh, also, the photo mode is super duper fun, but, you know, I always love a good photo mode. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.
I'll teach you some respect.
Okay, I came here to web bad guys and quit, and I'm all out of quip.